come out this morning. Give me just a second. All right. We should be live on YouTube now, and I heard a doorbell. I don't know. Was that
mine.
Okay. I didn't think Zoom had a doorbell like that. I was wondering if that was my computer beeping.
No, it was just the doorbell for 5 o'clock.
Okay. All right. Well, obviously, this is our monthly chat with patrons for February. It kind of snuck up on me. I didn't realize, well, I mean, obviously, February has only 28 days, 29 days because it's a leap year. But I was, a lot of times I plan on these things being on like the 30th or the 31st of the month. But there's no 30th or 31st for February. So it seems like I just saw you guys, like 3 weeks ago or so? It hasn't been too long. But there's a lot of Linuxy stuff going on. Had a lot of new Linux releases. A lot of software news out there. Does anybody want to start off with anything exciting you've been doing in Linux or free and open source software this month? I'm sure Steve's got a story.
Oh yeah, I got a lot of stories, but I'm just gonna select one, which is guys, Linux is in a period right now, in a very stale period. No issues are happening. Nothing, not many things are breaking, and I'm loving it.
Mm-hmm.
I'm enjoying this period. The storm is coming, but I'm enjoying this calm before the storm. I'm enjoying it. 45 days on Arch, not an issue.
You haven't updated in 45 days?
No, I did, but since everything is kind of like you said, in a transitional period between Wayland and Plasma 6 and everything like that, everything has calmed down for the past few weeks. Everything, all the updates were non-breaking updates. They were like stable updates, dare I say.
Yeah.
It's like, I want it to stay that way forever, but we all know that ain't happening. That ain't happening.
My fresh install of Arco has been pretty good. I mean, I'll still run into the occasional issue, minor things, but it's Arch. I mean, what can you do? But it wasn't like it was, when I needed to reinstall. I had just installed too much stuff on it, at the end of last year, because I had like 2,500 packages installed from Pac-Man. And then I had, I had a bunch of snaps, I had a bunch of Flatpaks, I had a bunch of app images. I had several things I compiled myself that, I throw in /opt. You get all this crud on the system. And things there were programs weren't opening, or they did open, but they didn't work right when they opened. And all that went away with a fresh install. So.
And for once I have around 70 or 80 AUR packages, because I no longer maintain repos since Zero Linux is gone. I'm installing everything from the AUR, and besides the annoying Git
that's
packages,
dangerous.
Besides the annoying thing with Git packages from the AUR updating every day, like 10 times every day because of every single commit. But other than that, it's just a small annoying thing. That's all. I haven't suffered any bugs, with the exception of the ones that DDC utils was buggy and causing a continuous crash loop. Mm-hmm. Besides that, I didn't see any other issues so far.
I've been able to avoid installing too much from the AUR. I've got just 2 or 3 like major things that I needed that are only in the AUR. Like the Brave browser was one of them. There's a couple of other things that I needed that I grabbed through the AUR, programs that I depend on. But really, other than just 3 or 4 things, I've avoided the AUR because honestly, unless you're going and downloading some weird programs, there's a lot of stuff in the core repos for Arch. I know everybody assumes that most of the software is in the AUR. But even all the proprietary software, things like Discord and Zoom, which we're on, that's just in the core repo. Like I didn't have to go,
No, there there are things now like WebCord has moved from FlatHub to the AUR. Things
We need
like,
Brave. If Brave would move from the AUR, that would be the last big program I really need that's only in the AUR still.
No, there's downgrade, there's update grub. Those are small things.
But not everybody is. Those are for nerds like us. I'm talking about programs that most people probably would be interested in. Most I would never recommend normal Arch users to play around with the downgrade tool. That's dangerous.
Well, there's also packages like various web browsers other than Brave, like Malvad.
Sure. Once you get into the weird stuff like the Nixt browser, I'm pretty sure it's still only in the AUR.
And honestly, I wouldn't even play with those because unless you're really just testing because security.
Yeah, they were requested by many users. So
LibreWolf is still only in the AUR.
Or Flatpak. You can choose between AUR.
Well, yeah, I mean they're all available, in the other formats.
When we have choices like that, I would rather offer the Flatpak rather than the AUR package.
Yeah, I mean, typically because the AUR is not auto updating, and the fact that it has to build, compile, depending on what browser. If it's a binary version of a browser, it's not a problem. But if it's something that's got to compile, hell no.
Well, hell no, but it was requested, and I added it to the toolkit. It was DaVinci Resolve. It was requested, so
yeah.
Now that's a nightmare and a half.
It's funny is speaking of adventures of in open source and all that stuff. This week I made the mistake of auto removing packages in Ubuntu when I have VMs installed, or VM player, or VirtualBox, and stuff like that. That's a bad idea.
Yeah.
I don't know why I did it, but I did it, and I regretted it immediately.
I don't understand this auto remove thing in Ubuntu
Debian and Ubuntu. It's the app package manager. Yeah. It's normally not a problem because it's just it's programs that it's things that are not needed, so it's usually safe to run that command.
Except when you have kernel modules installed, that's what got me.
I mean, that's kind of why.
Well, it still shouldn't be a problem based on how auto remove works. It shouldn't be a problem unless there was a error in the database for apt itself, which then you probably did something.
Well, that's probably why, because I've complained about the auto remove command. Why doesn't it just take care of that itself? Why does it spit out in the terminal, hey, you need to run this command, sudo apt auto remove? Like, hey, why can't you just do that yourself? It's probably because for some people it would break things. That's probably why it's not automatic.
The reason is very, very normal, is the fact that some people want to keep those dependencies around for whatever reason.
Yeah.
Because they may have a program that is built from source. That's why it is, and also because no other package manager really does that to that degree.
Yeah. Yep.
At least the older ones don't do that to that degree.
For example, on Arch, if you're installing from the AUR, it will prompt you. Do you want to remove orphan packages or dependencies?
The build dependencies,
That's basically what it is. Auto remove that. It removes orphan packages.
Yeah, but sometimes it goes crazy and removes your desktop environment.
Well, the build dependencies from the AUR is one thing, but Pacman doesn't have a standard command to remove all your orphan packages because that's dangerous.
Okay, I'm gonna. Speaking of which, I would like to introduce everyone to something called Arch-Update. It's on the AUR. It's by my friend Antis. It offers that for Pacman packages.
Yeah, that's good.
It's really interesting. It offers that for the AUR and Pacman packages. Do you want to remove orphan packages? Do you want to remove build dependencies? And do you want to remove? It does that for Flatpak as well.
Yeah, be careful removing orphan packages, though. Do read the list that it's going to remove before hitting yes.
Because I learned that the hard way.
Because I have run that. I have run commands to tell Pac-Man to find, dependencies that are no longer needed and then remove all of them. And you'd be surprised. Sometimes it will find the Linux kernel or, other really important things and just remove them. So
yeah, that's bad database management, nothing else.
It happened to me once where it removed KDE.
oh yeah, it'll remove an entire desktop. No problem.
How does it manage to do that?
I don't know, but I've had it happen to me a couple of times on Arch where I've done the convoluted. There's a little command that you can enter to remove all the orphan packages, but sometimes it will find the kernel. It'll find your desktop environment. It'll find hell, your video drive. Like it'll find packages that are critical and just take them away. And if you just blindly hit yes to that command, your computer's not going to reboot.
Yep. It's
Yeah,
bad.
fortunately for me, it only affected the kernel headers that VirtualBox or
Yeah, I mean, you can always use a live USB stick, root back into the thing and install the kernel back onto the machine.
And that is why I do not like traditional package managers.
Yeah. But like a newer Linux user, they're not gonna know what the hell happened. They're gonna think, well, I just broke my installation permanently. I've got to reinstall.
Yeah, that's here's something I did because I learned a lot. When I say to people I learned a lot, I do mean it, because when I created the wiki for my toolkit, I didn't do like the toolkit will install packages for users, but it's not going to configure the packages they install for them. That's why in the wiki I linked every single package I include in the toolkit to its own GitHub. So if, for example, they select to install a driver like a controller driver for the PS5 controller driver, they have to go to the wiki. There's a button. They click this. They type I. It will take them to the wiki, and there's a link to the GitHub of the DualSense Sense Control or whatever DualSense Control. There, it will tell them what they need to do after installing the package. If they don't read, they just install it, it's not going to work. So I learned that people should learn when they install stuff. They shouldn't blindly install packages and expect them to work right out of the box. There are some that will work out of the box, but some of them require user intervention. That's
but that's
why
not
they
the
need
way.
to read.
That's not the way most people use computers, or
they just want to install and forget.
Yeah, I mean, they're not going to learn anything by installing something. They're just it's a program they're interested in. They're just going to install it and pray that it works.
Yeah, well, the reason I did that is because from now on, I expect users trying to install Arch are users willing to learn. If they don't want to learn, there's a slew of Arch-based distros that does everything for them.
Yeah, there's a couple of Arch-based distros out there.
Yeah, there's a slew of them. you look under your pillow, you're gonna find a dozen.
Yeah, I was taking a look at some of the releases for the month as far as distro releases here in the last month. It wasn't a lot of them, but there were some pretty big projects that interesting distributions that I've played around with in the past. Sparky Linux had a release, which is a really nice Debian-based distribution. Antics just had a release a couple of days ago. I haven't taken a look at that. Some of the BSD operating systems also released. Ghost BSD had a release. And of course, for those of you that play with Raspberry Pis, Armbian. I mean, that is the Pi distribution, right? Is everybody running Armbian?
I used to, but now I'm just running. What am I running? I'm running
Manjaro.
No, I'm running Ubuntu server.
Yeah. Okay, that's interesting. How's that working out for you?
I'm using Docker containers. Just for Docker containers, I'm self-hosting Bitwarden on a backup with Vault Warden. It's called a backup because my main one is running on a VPS, but I have a backup for the VPS one in case it goes down or I cannot pay for it. I have a backup of it on my Raspberry Pi, and I'm running Joplin. server on the Raspberry Pi, and a YouTube downloader because I watch YouTube videos on my iPad.
Mhm.
So that's it, and it's been working fine without a single hitch, and I update it once a month.
Yeah. In the chat, I don't know if this was for any of us or just people in general, opinions on LFS. So if we're talking Linux from scratch, I'm assuming. I mean, it's a nice, it's basically an educational handbook that you go through to learn how Linux is built. It's not really a distribution, so don't think Linux from scratch is something you're going to install and then live in. But I mean, if you want to basically see how Linux is built from the ground up, starting at the very beginning, you know, bootstrapping the whole system. And it's basically like if you've ever did an old school Gentoo installation, like a stage 1 Gentoo installation, which they have stages. Typically, the standard Gentoo installation is what they call a stage 4 installation. Like they've already gotten you to the point where I know what people think that Gentoo installation is kind of crazy, but they've done a lot of work to get you to where you actually start with Gentoo, because Linux from scratch goes back, you know, to,
it's for the people who want to learn. It's for educational purposes.
Yeah. It might be worth it if you're interested. Like if you have a reason to know how the whole thing is built, it's certainly something. That's I would recommend you take a look at. If you're just a standard desktop Linux user, do you need to know that? No, but it might be fun too if that's something you enjoy.
And
just know it's going to take you a few days though to get through it. Especially depending on what you install it on, it's going to take many hours of compiling.
Yeah, and it's for people who have enough patience, specifically patience.
It's going to be one of those things. You enter a command, maybe do it in a virtual machine, but you enter a command, and that command's going to have to compile. You know, you were compiling, I don't know, GCC. It's going to take 8 hours or whatever to compile. You know, well, that's the only command you're entering today. You know, you come back tomorrow and work on the next set of commands or whatever. So
it has to be done at least once.
Yeah. I think especially for people that are building distributions, you know, it's interesting to see because if all you ever have done is based a distribution off of something like Debian or Arch, which is what most people do. You know, how did Debian and Arch get to the point where they're at? Well, they had to build things from scratch. So when you're starting by building off of Debian and Arch, well, you're taking, like they've done 99% of the work for you, essentially, and you're just taking it from there.
You're just doing 1% of the work.
Yeah.
Do you guys hear me?
It makes sense because I mean, there's no reason to unnecessarily duplicate work. So I think it makes sense to actually base distributions off of other distributions. I mean, nobody. It would be just for the environment. I think it would be bad if everybody was building Linux from scratch constantly, just because of all the power consumption and everything.
And you have to have power like 24/7, unlike me.
Yeah.
But speaking of distributions, NixOS has been gaining ground lately.
Yeah, I mean, NixOS has been kind of popular for a few years now. When I first started my channel, about 6.5 years ago, Nix was a very kind of niche operating system. Like nobody really talked about it. And I think part of the problem, I think what changed is about 2 years ago when they finally added the Calamares installer as an option. Yeah. Because the only way to install Nix before that was to actually write that kind of convoluted configuration file in, you know, its own proprietary kind of language. And man, that is a serious barrier to entry. Much more serious than installing something like Arch or even something like Gentoo. Like the Nix installation process is far more difficult than a Gentoo installation just a few years ago.
Especially that the guide is not straightforward.
Right. But now, them adding an installer, a proper graphical installer, man, that helps a lot of people get into Nix that otherwise just never would.
I got into Nix for a few days and I enjoyed it very much so because there's no way to break that thing. I tried to break it.
Well, I don't know if there's no
times.
way to break it, but the fact that you can roll back to a previous generation
Yeah,
does
exactly.
help.
There
That's
is
what
a
I
way
meant.
to break it. I can do it very easily. It's
Yeah.
not actually all that good at that. When you know what you're doing.
Well, you
I
can
mean,
break it, but
nothing
you
is
can always
unbreakable.
roll back. You can always roll back to a previous generation.
Not if you delete the generations. Like, there's
I-
got to be a way
I
to.
can I can make it not have generations as well. It's like really easy to
Yeah, I mean,
mistakenly destroy generations. It's not actually that hard.
if you got sudo privileges, you can do anything.
That's true. That's true. But for the average user, it's hard for the average user because I look at it this way. It's hard for them to delete all the generations, and they're just gonna be installing. If it breaks, it's gonna offer them these generations. They're gonna be curious what those are. They're gonna select one previous to the latest one, and it's going to pick up where and it's gonna work again.
Yeah.
But I'm gonna say this: I don't know what black magic they do on NixOS, but installing the NVIDIA drivers was so damn easy and flawless. And Wayland on NVIDIA worked better than it ever has on KDE Plasma Arch.
Well, I had other experiences with NVIDIA and NixOS. That was a pain in the ass to install.
Well,
Yeah.
for me, it was just I went to the wiki, not the guide, because the wiki is more straightforward. I went to the wiki, copied a bunch of code, pasted it in my configuration, rebuilt, and the driver was there. And not only the driver was there, all the configurations, the modules, everything for Wayland to work was there. It was I didn't do anything. I just
I
copy
mean, with
pasted.
the configuration file, when I was playing around with Nix, this was a couple of years ago. Last time I seriously played around with Nix in any way. I mean, it's very easy to set up a full desktop environment or window manager with pretty much all your drivers and the suite of applications. A lot of it you'll find kind of prefigured in bundles already for you. Like you just, like you said, you go copy some lines of code that somebody else that had installed that particular desktop environment or window manager is like, here's what you need. And you just go add that to your config file, and then it installs all the extra drivers and niceties that you need.
That's what I did, and I even did Plasma 6. They have their own Plasma 6 set of configurations, and it was working just like that. I was like, "Hey, what kind of black magic are you doing over there at Nix?" But
I enjoyed playing around with Nix for a little while. I enjoyed playing around with GNU Geeks quite a bit too. I actually liked it a lot better just because the way it was configured, even though it's kind of similar. I actually preferred the language because it was actually a real language scheme I think that they were using for that configuration. But the problem with Geeks is being free software only. If you have to have proprietary software, which almost everybody will, you're going to need proprietary Wi-Fi drivers. If you're an NVIDIA user, you need the NVIDIA drivers. And obviously most people don't want to use the Linux Libre kernel. That's an issue. Now, Geeks has a non-standard channel that you can add to pull down that proprietary software, but it's not in any way official. The Geeks guys don't support any of that stuff, but I mean, there are ways to get it. So I played around with Geeks quite a bit, and it was nice. They're just different, Geeks and Nix. They're a different way to do things. Is it better or worse than the other way to make a distro? I don't know. It's just different.
That's the point. You make a very, very valid point. All distros are different. Not a single one is better than the other. There's no such thing as better. It's a subjective thing. Is it better for you, for your use case? It doesn't mean it's a general thing. It's in general better than anything else. No, there's no general better. There's better
like I can see people saying, like some people might say Nix is preferable to something like Arch because Arch has some stability issues the way Arch is designed. But then also, I mean, would you say Nix is more stable than something like Debian or Ubuntu LTS? I wouldn't.
Yes.
So I mean, Nix is stable, but it's not. No, it's not Debian's. Come on, man. I've played around with Nix enough. It's definitely not Debian.
No, I'll tell you what. I will contradict you on that one. I'll tell you what, because Nix does not have a package manager. Next,
Well,
you have to rebuild everything, and if you don't rebuild, you just add everything you want from the get-go and don't rebuild, you're good. It's
Well, that's every that's every distro. If you never install anything and never update anything, obviously you're never going to break anything.
like
Nix
no,
still has the same problem as every other the package manager. It's still a package manager, no matter what you do. It's
And
still a
trust me, you're
package
going to play
manager.
with the configuration file. You're going to break things, and yeah, you can fix them. But just like you can
Yes.
fix you can break every distribution. You can fix every distribution.
Nix
They're
package
all-
manager just composes your operating system in a slightly, and I do mean slightly different way than a traditional package manager. So where the only difference is when it happens.
well,
with-
here's the thing. Some most distributions, they have a way of notifying you when there's an update. It's up to you if you update or not, but they have a way of notifying you when there's an update. Whereas NixOS will never notify you if you don't.
Yeah,
go
that-
that notification systems are going to depend on what desktop environment you're using. Like if you're using a standalone window manager, it's not coming with a notification
I
daemon
can explain
already.
how those notification daemons work, like how notifications work and why they don't work on NixOS.
Right.
How they work is you have to update your database. When you update your database, you will know are there any packages that are different between the upstream database and my database on my system that I have installed. NixOS doesn't. Nix package manager. Let me correct this. Nix package manager doesn't have such functionality. It pulls data from the database at the time of installation.
At the time of
That's
installation.
That's why
Yeah.
it doesn't. It's just a different way of thinking how to do it. It's not actually like a lot different, just slightly different.
And just briefly, I do want to respond to a super chat. Petra in the chat. What are your opinions on the Warp terminal? Don't know anything about that particular terminal, but I'll write it down. I might take a look at it if it
Isn't
seems
it a
like it's something.
proprietary
I've never
terminal?
heard of it though, so I have no thoughts on it. You
You
guys
hear me,
know
guys?
anything about this Warp terminal?
All I know is I
No.
believe it's proprietary and AI driven.
That's AI driven. Well, you know what? That sounds interesting enough. I might take a look at it just for that.
Yeah, AI
just
and
to see what
everything.
that's about.
AI and everything.
AI
in our
terminal.
food.
No, that's great.
One day we're gonna have AI in our food.
Yeah.
Whenever they mention
No,
AI,
thank you.
step away.
Yeah.
I step away.
When we were talking about sudo privileges and being able to break our Linux distributions, I did notice the other day I was reading an article that Microsoft is planning on adding sudo
Yes, it's
to
already
Windows
there.
finally.
It's already
Yeah.
there. In the
Is
insider
that going to be
preview.
in Windows 11? Is that what they're?
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's in a 24H2. It's coming to 24H2.
I mean, that should have happened so long ago.
Yeah, it's because they noticed a lot of people are using winget and installing packages that way. So they want to make their terminal experience more complete. You can enable it but until so far in 24H2, as far as I know, they're gonna enable it in the developer settings. You have to enable.
You know
developer
how to
mode.
make that Windows terminal experience really complete for everybody?
Go to
The
Linux.
bash shell and the GNU core utils. I mean, Linux has already done it for you. Just copy what.
I don't know. I would say that if I wouldn't be sure saying that Bash and core utils are actually better than what
I know you're going to
Windows
defend
actually
PowerShell,
offers.
and PowerShell is
Power-
great. I mean,
I don't know PowerShell, but from people who use both, I hear all the time PowerShell is better. So,
Well,
and I believe those people that it's far better than
shots fired at Bash.
Bash and core utils. Of course, core utils are actually pretty bad anyway, but yeah,
What?
I'm not a fan of core utils.
The core
I'm-
utils are
I'm
at the
probably gonna
foundation of
su-
all of our Linux operating
I'm
systems.
probably gonna sooner or later replace them with better alternatives. Sooner or
What better
later.
alternatives? The BSD utils, BusyBox. I
know.
mean, where are you going? You're not going to
I
find a
don't
better
know.
alternative.
That's why I haven't yet, because I haven't yet made the
Trust
research.
me,
Of
those
course,
alternatives are not. They're not what you think.
I don't use Bash at all anymore.
Yeah.
That's what Fish is for. I don't use LS.
Yeah. Well, I mean, obviously, I would prefer Windows to adopt the fish shell, but I don't think that's going to happen.
Oh, speaking
I
of-
don't use a couple of others, or I don't use. So I don't know.
Speaking of the fish shell, DT, since you use fish, why don't you use All My Fish?
It's not as necessary. Like with ZSH, you know, you've got the whole plugin system, but ZSH out of the box, just vanilla ZSH, not configured in any way, is very stripped down, and it doesn't have much functionality. Like, it doesn't have all that fanciness to it, right? So you have to have that separate plugin system, the Oh My ZSH framework, to configure it. Fish is completely different. Fish out of the box, without any extra configuration, is still pretty much Fish, with all the tab completions and the syntax highlight, and, you know, all the fanciness. Like, Oh My Fish doesn't have that much extra stuff to add to Fish that you would
it's just
think.
visual. Oh My Fish is just visual.
And you don't really even need those frameworks to add that functionality to any shell.
What is the point
Because
then?
you just go into your ZSH RC or your bash RC or your config.fish or whatever config file for your shell, and you can actually script all of that functionality into it without needing that third-party framework that's a separate package installed on your system. It just takes care of some of the scripting for you if you didn't know how to do that.
The reason I'm asking is because someone requested I include fish in my toolkit as an option. I was like, yeah, but it's going to be without All My Fish, because I noticed that
It's not necessary. I mean,
because as you said,
and Fish, you don't even have to write a config file yourself, because the way the Fish shell is out of the box, when you configure it, there's a command you enter in the shell. Like, it's like a config
Default
command.
settings, the best.
Yeah, but it'll open a web browser, and you will actually go on a web page that's already built in to the Fish shell and choose your settings.
I don't think I changed
And it will-
a single
and it will-
setting on my Fish.
I've got a pretty extensive configuration file for Fish, but I didn't do a lot of real fancy stuff. Like, I added some custom functions that I needed, and obviously I've got a ton of aliases, but I like all the fancy effects and things. I mean, Fish out of the box pretty much has all the stuff you would want. It's got everything that ZSH typically has already built into it.
Yeah, like you said, with the ZSH, if you don't install All My ZSH, you're not gonna get the Git integration. You're not gonna get the completion.
ZSH is really bad if you just install the ZSH package and nothing else. ZSH is quite bad, because what's the point of running ZSH at that point? It's essentially like Bash. Right? It's really no different at that point. So
yeah, that's why I selected not to include any fancy stuff with Fish. It's a default config, and then users, if they want to configure it, the people who requested it, they would know how to configure it and how to use it. So I kept it at stock. But yeah, it's interesting. I discovered a lot of people's various different use cases when it comes to Linux while working on the toolkit. It's I've learned more than I ever have by maintaining a distro. So I love a lot of when you have your hands-on in Linux. For example, the reason I love Arch is because it's easy enough. I'm not saying easy, just easy enough to learn a lot of things and get your hands a little bit dirty. So I'm really enjoying my experience right now. I'm no longer doing things the easy way. I'm doing the things the way they should have been done when coming to Arch. It's just like building stuff, compiling stuff, configuring things, reading a lot of wikis left and right. Before, I was like a normal user. I used to hate to read wikis and guides and stuff. If it's not just copy and paste, I wouldn't do it. But now I'm completely different. I flipped 180 degrees.
One thing I would say about the fish shell, when you reinstall an operating system like I just recently did, be sure, not everybody maybe wants to do this, but I certainly would have wanted to do this and I didn't. I should have saved my fish history, because if you use the fish shell, you know how predictive it is, because it remembers every single command you have ever entered, how often you've entered it, and it'll almost predict exactly the command you're trying to type. Well, if you don't save your history, when you reinstall, obviously all that resets, right? So you might want to save that stuff when you reinstall.
There's something similar to that for the ls for the cd command. I forgot the name of the tool. I mentioned it on my forum because I watched a video on YouTube. It's for the cd command. It remembers your directories and it gives them weight. Like instead of typing cd and the / and you have to type the full path, etc., it's just you type cd documents. It will find the full path of your documents, cd into a directory within a directory within a directory within a directory. If you did it multiple times before, it's going to, you just type cd Steam.
Yeah, so it kind of predicts the path just from
yeah.
You could probably I don't know the tool you were specifically working with, but you could probably do something like that with Fuzzy Finder. Create a Fuzzy Finder script where Fuzzy Finder would basically find all the paths available for that string you're searching for example, documents, and then you hit enter on the one you want, and it'll CD into it for you.
Yeah, the tool I am talking about is tools. It's called Zoxide.
Okay. Yeah, I think I've heard of that one before. It's been around for a while. I think I played with it one time. I didn't do anything on camera with it, but I did. I want to say I installed it a few years back and played around with it, and I don't remember necessarily being wowed by it, or I didn't think it was necessarily bad either. But
it's interesting. It's just interesting. I'm using it right now because I don't remember the full path to anything. For example, now I do cd Steam. It will immediately go to the full path of Steam in .local share Steam, for example, and I can modify files there. But you have to remember one thing: you have to alias cd to z, because Zoxide uses the z command. Instead of having to remember to type the z command, you just alias cd to z. Once you've done that, it's pretty easy to use, and it saved my life. And now
I wonder why they make you alias it yourself. Why wouldn't they just install a binary called Z?
No, they install a binary called Z, but you have to. But in order to use it, you have to replace in your mind CD with Z.
Okay. You don't actually have to go in your shell's config file and alias it. Okay, that's what I thought you were saying. I was like, why would they make you do that?
No, it's because users will never remember to type Z instead of CD. So for it to be easier for users to use it, just
alias CD to BZ.
To Z.
Okay, I see what you were saying. Yeah.
Yeah. So and then it's whenever you type CD, it will use Z.
Yeah, but my CD is already EZA. EZA command. I haven't actually. My CD has not been CD in many years.
DT, you hear me?
Yeah, we've got you. Is that Jean-Michel?
No, it's me, Swedish Linux.
Oh, Swedish Linux. Yeah, we've got you. Jean-Michel?
Sorry,
I haven't heard you yet.
I was doing something.
Okay, yeah, we've got both of you guys. I know me and Steve and Big Pod, we rambled on there quite a bit, especially when it got to stability of NixOS versus Debian and other things. we rambled on for a while.
I don't say OpenSUSE. I don't need to say anymore.
OpenSUSE is not bad.
Yeah,
I've never really had any complaints with OpenSUSE.
Since about 4 months, I'm now back on Debian, but on Debian SID.
So rolling version of Debian.
I like that. Yeah, Jean-Michel, he's a gambler, right?
Maybe I'm a gambler, but I had one small issue about 2 months ago, and in the last 2 months, absolutely no trouble.
On rolling Debian, that's nice.
On rolling Debian, yeah.
Oh,
I
that's
haven't
nice.
I haven't run Debian SID on any of my physical machines in a few years, but I remember trying it, 8 years ago, 10 years ago, and it was a mess back then. For
What
me,
I have done,
I mean, at the time, I don't.
I have to compare. I have on one drive Debian 12 standard and on another drive Debian SID.
Yeah.
So worst case, I can always go back.
Yeah,
with the
you
normal
just
Debian.
reminded.
But I'm surprised I had no trouble in the last 4 months.
Well, that's actually a pretty good record then. If it's been good for you for 4 months, it's probably going to be all right for you.
Yeah, and I'm surprised that Arch, being the bleeding edge that it is, I didn't have any issues either. So I am quite baffled by this, and I even enabled the testing repos because I wanted to get the latest NVIDIA drivers before they were out, to see if they changed the control panel. And apparently, they updated the control panel to work on Wayland now. It has all the options on Wayland. They unlocked all the options on Wayland, apparently. So I'm like, that's interesting. But even by enabling the testing repositories, I didn't manage to break Arch yet. I'm happy. Like I said, we're on a dead period right now.
I did want to mention some more Microsoft software that I was pretty excited about. This particular bit of news, maybe BigPod has more information on it, is OneDrive integration is coming to GNOME's Nautilus File Manager. And,
yes, it's coming. Yeah, it's true.
I think this whole move with sudo and all that, that's in the long run, I'm pretty sure about it that Microsoft sooner or later will drop Windows with anti-kernel and do something else.
No, I don't know about that, but I was only half kidding about the bash shell and the GNU core utils. Like, I know BigPod says that could never happen, but would it really shock us if something like that happened? I mean, you see how close Microsoft and Linux, these various Linux companies are working now.
No, I believe that maybe not going to happen the next 5 years, but in the next 10 years, I'm pretty sure that, especially if
it won't be something that happens overnight.
No, it's not going to go overnight. Either they're going completely cloud-based, but I don't think that's going to hold for the entire world.
You're not going to wake up one day and Windows will be on the Linux kernel. Like, that's not just going to happen. When it'll start slowly. First, you'll have GNU/NT. And then it'll finally be GNU/Linux.
The opposite is happening. The opposite is happening. Like, I saw a piece of news the other day where NT-Sync is coming to Proton. It could be. It's not for sure going to be integrated into Proton because it's doing the Windows way of doing things. Linus Torvalds might not accept that inside the kernel. Who knows? But it had up to 675% increase in performance, up to 675%.
Okay.
Yeah, but in the long run, I don't think Microsoft can support all the computers, and they're going to do an Apple on it. They're going to cut it, and then they switch the kernel in some way. Because I know already they have internally in Microsoft a Windows version with an anti-kernel already. It's not for release. It's only internal for Microsoft.
That's a story that's been going on, and it's totally false. There is no Windows UI with Linux kernel. There is not, because there is no point in that for them. You know how much they would have to rewrite like everything.
Yeah, exactly. That will cost them more money than they make.
And that's coming from BigPod sources inside Redmond. Like,
I'm going to tell you right now, just a fun fact. For them to get everything working on Linux, the whole Windows stack, which they would have to move and we have to move the whole backwards compatibility layer, everything, that would cost them more money than they probably invested in the last few years into Windows.
Yeah. I mean, think about how many people. Think about how many people and how many years they had to work on it to shoehorn basically everything that was going to be the GNU operating system to be able to use the Linux kernel back in the early 90s. Like it took a lot of effort to make all of that work. Now you're going to do the same thing with a different kernel. Like who's going to put in that time and money? Microsoft's $1 trillion company. It's not like they don't have money, but why would they spend that money?
They still have to make sure that it goes in benefit of their shareholders,
Exactly.
not in their drawback. And spending a lot of money on what is essentially a futile move is not benefiting your shareholders.
And right now, Microsoft is not really focused that much on Windows. Microsoft right now, they are all in on this AI train. That they are a leader, obviously, in that space with ChatGPT and everything. Like that is all of their research and development is going into AI and all of that. So
yeah, but it's all on Linux. Remember that it's not on Windows servers. It's all on Linux based.
And they have Linux operating for servers for many years now. That's not like a big shock for anybody who actually knows anything.
Maybe you know this, Big Pod, because I don't know the answer. Does their cloud service actually use Linux servers, or are they using Windows servers for that?
Their cloud service in the completely on the bare metal uses Windows, as a specially crafted version of Windows.
Yeah. Okay. That's what I would have assumed, but I mean, it wouldn't have shocked me if like Azure and all of that stuff in the back end was all
Azure
on.
uses specially crafted version of Windows.
Okay. Well, that's good. It would kind of look bad if you weren't using your own product, right?
Is it like a stripped down version? Like a portable edition, or is it?
No, basically it's Windows Server for data center with additional things for authentication that needs to be specially done for that kind of hardware, with additional drivers for the internal stuff and certain optimizations that only make sense when you're deploying thousands and thousands of servers at a time.
Yeah, it's not going to be an operating system that anybody else could use. It's specifically built for them, I'm sure.
Yes.
For Azure, yeah.
Specifically for that exact deployment and nothing else.
Gotcha.
And optimizations for exactly that deployment of basically single-use deployment of hosting virtual machines, because that's what it's doing. It's hosting virtual machines of Windows, Linux, all that.
Right.
In the YouTube chat, I just want to briefly read a couple messages. Darth Vader, he says he doesn't use the CD command anyway because most of the time he's in Emacs. Good man, sir. All right. And then
you can always count on Darth Vader to give the good answers.
Yeah, and then Nuno says, the Windows kernel is here to stay. However, virtualization and interoperability evolves. I guess something like a co-kernel could be there. Yeah, I mean, you because of the way Microsoft has customers and they have to support older products, they can't just make a total breakaway from the NT kernel one day. Like it would have to be gradual if they ever did make the change.
And just think about it. Just think about it from realistic level. They would have to rewrite the whole Win32 layer, which is basically the runtime for software. It's the part that Wine is trying to emulate.
I was about to say they could just use Wine, right?
No, they couldn't, because I can throw certain software at it will never work.
It was a joke, Big Pod. It was a joke.
And just a fun fact I heard from someone, when Microsoft was trying to move their SQL server to Linux, they actually they wrote a tiny Wine for it.
That's funny.
And
that's funny.
when they have all the source code for
Wine.
No, they didn't use Wine. They created basically their own version. So
but that's what I'm saying. They use Wine as a template.
those specific kernel calls that they need for SQL Server, and basically it still doesn't work as it should, as it would on Windows.
No,
And
because I
it's-
mean, it's basically like you're writing a completely new
was
operating system
really
to run
hard
one
to do.
application. Yeah.
You're basically trying to match those one-to-one those calls, which is impossible to do because there are always calls that are different. You have to do 2 calls. That's why VSL1 failed. Because they couldn't match every Linux call with a Windows call to that kind of a level.
Jake in the chat says they could just use React OS. So as somebody that's played with React OS many times over the last 20 years or however long it's been in development, no, they couldn't just use React OS. For one thing, it's not React OS is not really Windows because Windows proprietary software. React OS was built from the ground up. It's its own code base, so it's not even remotely the same thing. Even though it runs Windows applications, it's still not Windows running those applications.
And then even if you just talk about moving the shell itself, like the front end and applications, most of those applications are not written in a way that would work in Linux.
And React OS works on older software for the most part. Like if you're running like Windows software from the late 90s, early 2000s, maybe that's fine. But modern applications that were written for Windows 11, I wouldn't trust that to work on React OS.
No, there's another thing we have to keep in mind is if Windows changes, then everybody like Adobe, like everybody else has to follow suit, and that's gonna cost billions upon billions upon billions of dollars.
Well, I think that's why all the big companies have already decided that putting everything in the cloud is where they're going, or writing everything using Java or Electron, things that make cross-platform software a lot easier.
Yeah, and just a simple. I want a simple. I don't know. Let's say something like settings app, which you would think it would be easy to move to Linux. Yeah, no, it's written for a runtime that is completely that cannot work with Linux, with a UI library that has no parallel and no way to make work in Linux. There is so they'll have to rewrite everything basically.
And there's also
Microsoft is not Windows. I mean, it's not Linux.
Yeah, and there's the DistroBox method of doing things. Just install WSL on Windows and fire up DistroBox, and you're done. You can run Windows Linux applications on GUI applications on Windows. Why would Microsoft?
Why do you think they made that?
Because they don't want to go switch kernels and do all this stuff that would cost them money. This is at least would cost them much less.
There is a very different reason, because the people they want to use Windows need to use Linux. Developers that outside of what are those called? Out of AI, their main business target are developers, because developers drive everything about choice of computers, choice of
right
software.
Now,
everything driven by developers.
Yeah, right now, if you're any kind of developer that has any kind of experience with AI and machine learning and anything like that,
you're in the money.
You can get a job tomorrow, because there's not enough people for that. And the way things are going, right now there's a much more demand than there is actual people that know that stuff.
Like Steve Ballmer put it, developers.
No.
Yeah, that's not a joke. Everything, like if you look at their development tooling, like Visual Studio Code, it has more effort put in than many of their other software.
Oh my God. The last time I downloaded Visual Studio, the entire suite, Visual Studio Ultimate, the Microsoft Visual Studio Ultimate, it was 50 gigabytes.
Yes.
Holy crap.
That thing is huge. It has 1 trillion options. Like you have so much stuff you can work with in Visual Studio.
You will never get that.
There's a bloat joke in there
package
somewhere.
You'll never get that 40 gigabyte package on Linux or Mac OS. Only on Windows will you get that, and
Yeah, but
support
it's
everything on
Electron.
those
I mean,
phones.
that's
No,
Electron
it's not
apps.
Electron. It's not Electron. It's
VS Code, is it?
VS Code is, but not Visual Studio. Those are two different
Oh,
products.
the Studio. Okay, there's different. Yeah.
Visual Studio is a lot older, 2010, 29, I believe. 2009.
The latest one they released was 2022.
Yes.
Visual Studio Code 2022 was around 56
Studio.
gigabytes.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's still 2 years
Visual
ago.
Studio,
Yeah.
Visual Studio 2022 is pretty good. Like there is like million and one option. It has probably one of the best debuggers currently available.
I was
Anywhere.
wondering why don't they shift the entire package on for Linux or Mac? Why do we get this Electron
I can
Frankenstein
tell you.
app?
I will tell you. There are two reasons. First one, they were thinking about it. They did polls and all that. That's what I heard from someone at Microsoft who told it when I asked him on stream. He said that they were thinking about it, but basically the user base showed that what they want is a expandable text editor, not a IDE.
Right. I was about
like
to say,
Visual Studio.
I'm glad you said that, Big Pod, because I could have answered that without even knowing what they're
That's
serving.
reason number one.
It's
Reason
because
number
most people
two-
on Linux are probably using things like NeoVim, Emacs, we have a million IDEs and text editors. All the JetBrains stuff is on Linux now. Like, you don't necessarily have to have VS Studio. Like, it's...
Reason number
so
two
my-
is basically the UI library is 100% not compatible with Linux.
Oh yeah.
Majorly right.
Okay,
Yeah.
but my thought about it is not that they're going to go backwards to translate all the software I have today.
That dog
My
is
fault
having a
is-
fit.
If
What is
they,
that dog doing?
If
He's
they're doing
playing with
new
something.
software and that new software starts to have compatibility with Linux, and in the future,
Right, but they still have to rewrite everything. What's the point? They will have to replace everything in their stack, whether they write a new thing or they rewrite the old thing. It really doesn't matter. They will have to have written something that really is to them irrelevant.
Yeah,
If
that's
only
this
they
is,
could get
this
their
is the magic
compatibility
word.
layer working.
Yeah, this is the magic word. Irrelevant to Microsoft. A lot of things are irrelevant, but some of the developers out there, they don't see those as irrelevant. But if Microsoft sees them as irrelevant and too costly for them to do, they will throw that on the back burner, never do it, and continue on with their day.
Also,
So-
there is no point in moving Windows to Linux. No matter what
There's
people
no point.
say,
No, no,
there
no.
is no point.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
There's-
I doubt many of the people that develop software on Linux, like they're not crying about not having certain Windows tools. Like, I mean, because
Yeah.
they probably would just have Windows installed and use Windows when they need it, if that's really what they wanted to develop on.
Exactly. Especially when it comes, I know that from the professional people in TV that require Adobe Premiere, Adobe After Effects, Adobe Photoshop, and whatever.
My condolences to those people.
Yeah.
Better software than anything on Linux. So my condolences to you.
Yeah.
Dang! Wow!
Shots fired at Linux.
Sorry,
Yeah.
but people who think that Kden Live is anything good, they're just never used.
No, we
That's
have
all.
pretty good proprietary software on Linux too. It's not just Kden Live,
DaVinci
Big Bud.
Resolve.
Yeah, DaVinci
DaVinci-
Resolve.
Yeah, I would
is
say
a
No,
big
no,
one.
Stop,
DaVinci
stop.
Resolve on Linux is basically 10% good of what DaVinci Resolve on Windows
Yeah, I
is.
was
That's
going
first
to say,
of
I was
all.
going to,
Second of all,
I got to take your
that's
word
not-
for it because I've never used DaVinci, so I'm sure
that's not an
probably
editor.
the case.
That's a
Yeah.
color grading tool with video editing functions built in. It
Yeah.
will
Wasn't
never be as
DaVinci
good as
Resolve developed first on the Linux platform and then they moved to Windows?
no.
no, they were Windows first because DaVinci
Yeah.
Resolve
Yeah.
spanned from Avid Pro.
Yeah, because
No.
DaVinci, I remember when they first
No.
switched to Linux, like or made a Linux port.
The
Yeah, it was
idea
always
of-
Windows. Yeah,
Yeah.
Mhm.
it evolved from the idea of Avid Pro, not it took Avid Pro. No, I'm saying the idea.
No.
Yeah,
DaVinci Resolve is a color grading. It's first of all color grading tool, so has no connection with Avid. It came from.
Wait, the editing part came from Avid, not the color correction. It was a color correction thing, and then they started wanting to branch out and become everything to everyone. So they included a video editor coming from Avid Pro, because Avid Pro is dead. It no longer exists. There's only Avid Composer or Compositor or whatever it's called now. Express or whatever.
Kdenlive lives.
Yeah, but Kdenlive
Strong. Very strong.
But Kdenlive is crap, so.
You know what? Kdenlive, I have a love-hate relationship with Kdenlive sometimes.
We all do. We all do.
Don't we all? Don't we all?
It crashes at random moments. Like the other day, a friend of mine came with a video of a paragliding video of him paragliding, and he wanted to because I don't know, for whatever reason, they gave him the video split into multiple video files. They wanted to combine it as a single file. We started adding an intro and background music and everything. As I was rendering, I received renderer crashed. A message saying renderer crashed, render crashed.
At the end of the day, we're talking about a video editor that for many years didn't have any kind of capability of doing multicam, like easy multicam, like every other editor has.
Yeah, like Premiere has. Premiere has an amazing multicam.
I mean, for a long time, I mean, the effects have gotten a lot better because they add more and then they improve the existing effects. But, you know, many years ago, heck, you couldn't really do any kind of audio editing in Kdenlive. You always had to go and use a proper audio editor to fix your audio.
Well, you still
That's
can't.
good.
You still can't. You can add the only thing I get when I right click on an audio clip and select the add effects is volume. That's the only thing I can do.
Well, that's an important one, and like that's
important.
Let's be real.
Well,
Being able to adjust the volume is kind of important.
But if you go into the effects tab, if you go into the actual effects tab, there's lots more effects.
Yeah, there's a normalize effect, and there's a lot of things that you can.
Yeah, there's a whole lot more in the effects tab.
There's a compressor.
Where the project bin is.
Yeah.
Yeah, but why don't they add them to the right-click context menu? Why do we have to look for them in the effects bin?
Well, the way Kdenlive works is the things you use on a regular basis. You add to your favorites.
Yeah,
like the right click menu is your favorite effects that you use all the time. You have to specifically add those.
Oh, I didn't know that.
When you go into the effects list, you search for an effect. Maybe you use, I don't know, the zoom effect all the time. You pick that in the effects list, right click on it, and click add to favorites. And now all you need to do is right click on the clip in the timelines, and you'll have zoom as an option because you use it all the time. That'll save you from having to search through those lists.
Well, it wasn't straightforward. I didn't.
Whether the documentation for Kdenlive is probably not great.
As is typical for most all Linux documentation.
Yeah, that is true.
Yeah. Blender is way better for video editing, says Darth Vader. Blender is not really. It's okay for a video editor, but that's not to say it's way better. No. For one thing, the render times.
It's the 3D modeling software.
Yeah. Well, it doesn't render video in a timely fashion. It takes a lot longer for a video to render in Blender than it does in Kdenlive. A lot longer.
Yeah.
And when time is money, essentially for people. You can't waste time having your videos take 2.5 times longer to render than.
Well, it was meant to render your modeling, not.
Yeah. It's not a proper. The video editor is kind of like an afterthought that was added.
It's for creating clips and stuff like that. For you to then export to another editor to then make your composition. So.
Yeah, like I don't understand this thought process developers have. Why do you want your app to be everything to everyone? Just do your thing and do it good. Stop.
You know, I've given this analogy about Blender before, and it's very apt. Blender is like the Emacs of video animation kind of software. Like Blender tries to be everything to all people multimedia, right? So is that a good thing? I don't know.
No.
I don't think so.
Generally not.
I will say
No.
when you open Blender, if you've never used Blender before, it is confusing as hell, all the options and everything available in that thing.
Well,
Like it's a
I'll say
nightmare
this.
to try to navigate as a new user.
Well, as a new user, yes, but if you had experience with Maya before, then you won't have any issue using Blender. Because I have messed with Maya, 3D Studio Max, and various different Lumion and various different 3D graphic tools. Blender was not all that different. It had different because in Maya, to get to the basic options, you have to hold space, get a context menu, and there everything is. Even the straightforward stuff like edit, cut, copy, paste, you have to click space and get the context menu to see them on every viewport. Same thing with Blender. It's adopting the Maya way of doing things.
And Blender's when I say it's kind of Emacs like, it's not just that it does a lot of things, it's because a lot of it, the plugin system, the fact that so many people have got their own plugins, and the extensibility of Blender, like it can really do a lot of things, which I think is in some ways very powerful. I think that's why Blender is such a popular program, especially among professionals. But at the same time, for like normal computer users, like Blender's not a tool that most people, even people like us, unless we're really deep into 3D animation and things like that, we would never like for making a simple video, like video editing, hell no. You'd open something like Caden Live or even some of the other things, Shotcut, and things like much easier to.
The benefit of Blender is the fact that it's free open source and you can develop for it at your at a whim. You want a plugin that doesn't exist and you're a developer, you can develop a plugin for it right there and then and use it.
Mm-hmm.
That's the whole benefit behind Blender. Everything else, most important ones like 3D Studio Max, Maya, you cannot do that. It's their proprietary software. So that's why
to continue with the software theme, because I had a lot of software programs that we've already covered probably a dozen different pieces of software. I did see some news where on Ubuntu, Thunderbird is now going to ship as a snap by default, which kind of makes sense because Mozilla was already doing Firefox as a snap, and that take care of Thunderbird and its development and updates as far as snaps being auto updated. But one thing I wanted to talk about other than that was just Thunderbird in general. Do any of you guys use Thunderbird as an email client?
No.
I do.
No, I used to, but since I'm now on the Vivaldi browser, and it has a great mail and email integration, I don't use any of that stuff anymore.
Well, see, I used to use Thunderbird many years ago, like 10 years ago. I used it for many, many years. And then, I was like, well, I'm on Linux, and Linux has so many other email clients, free and open source email clients. I went on this little tour of email clients there for a while where I'd use something for a couple of years and then switch and then switch again. So I've used a lot of things like Geary, which was really nice. Used it for a couple of years here recently. I used Mailspring for a couple of years, and it was really nice. And, it's been a while since I used Thunderbird, and I've been hearing a lot about its development, a lot of changes with the UI design, looks better or whatever. I installed it, and I've been using it here for the last 3 or 4 weeks since reinstalling this computer. So Thunderbird has been my email client for the last month. And it looks exactly the same as when I left it 10 years ago. I don't really see all these changes and improvements. It still looks like a piece of software that was developed in the last century rather than the 21st century.
Because that's what it looks like.
I still use Thunderbird.
Yeah. As far as being an email client, it still does everything an email client should do.
I was gonna say, what do you?
It doesn't matter what it looks like, I guess, but at the same time, I've been reading all these stories about all this work on the UI, and it's like,
it looks the same.
It's the same Thunderbird.
I use it mostly to archive, offline sync stuff, but I don't mind using a lot of the things that are available for different web email.
I have a solution for all y'all. Just install an email extension in your browser, and you don't need an email client.
Or just use a web client.
Yeah.
Yeah, but
Yeah,
the
that's
thing
what I
is,
was getting
the
to,
thing is,
yeah.
when you use a desktop email client, if you're downloading your emails, then when you don't have internet, you can still go back and read older emails and things like that. If you're archiving emails, you need something that's not browser based.
I don't care about that, honestly.
Well, most people don't, but some people will. So, I mean, there's a reason why desktop email exists.
There is.
Yeah, because they didn't have web clients when they used it.
And I used to actually archive all of my email using programs in the terminal, things like NeoMut and MU4E and Emacs. And, I would actually save all of my emails. I had to get them downloaded and saved to a folder on my system. That way I could always go back and read things, even if I didn't have internet. I've got all my past emails archived. And just made things like going to the terminal and doing something like grep awk or whatever, searching for things, whatever it is I wanted to do. So it does make sense to archive emails.
Well,
in some situations.
If
I get so much garbage emails, I'd be archiving a bunch of garbage.
Oh yeah.
Well, you don't want to archive like your spam folder, probably.
No. I mean, not in my spam folder. I mean, in my.
Oh, you're talking
folder.
about you've got in your actual inbox what you should get rid of. Yeah, I mean, you
No,
can delete that. I understand
down.
what you're saying. You get too much crap. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
But
here's
the
the thing.
Thunderbird, for me, works best if you have like me, a dozen of email accounts. I've tried most of the Linux email clients, and whatever you think, Thunderbird still make it best. It's more.
I will say for
not the best
functionality,
client.
yeah, for just functionality purposes, yeah, it is the best, and also for cross-platform.
Yeah,
because
exactly.
of the fact that it works on Windows, Mac, and Linux. If you're somebody that works with machines on all three operating systems, it makes a lot of sense to use Thunderbird.
Yeah, and here's a tidbit. If you are, if anyone is using Google Workspaces or whatever it's called today, like I am, there's an option, and that's only available, unfortunately, for paid members. It's an option a toggle you turn on. It's called make email available offline. So, and as soon as you toggle it on, all your email accounts that you have workspaces on will get archived, and they will be put in your home directory Google Mail for Gmail.
And when I said I used all the email clients, I mean, I've used Evolution before. It's pretty good. I've used Claws Mail and Sealfeed. Both of those are kind of bad. I've never used Kmail though, and because you're the KDE guy, Steve, have you ever used Kmail? What's it like?
Yeah,
Is that bad?
Probably like the rest of KDE, hot garbage.
It's like,
no. I used Kmail because it comes with KDE. I was curious about it, and it is not bad. It is, and this might sound controversial to some. Its integration with KDE is.
I would expect it to. Yeah.
Yeah, it's better than.
Because you have the KDE Connect and all the syncing stuff with your mobile and all. I've probably a lot of that.
Yeah,
stuff.
it's an ecosystem. It's part of the KDE ecosystem. So
it probably would only make sense though if you were a KDE desktop user.
Yeah, that is true.
Otherwise, you'd probably never use it.
Yeah, if you were on GNOME or XFCE and you install Kmail, it's going to pull down the entire KDE stack. So, but the problem with Kmail, KDE Mail or Kmail, whatever, is the integration with Google Drive and OneDrive and all that. But those are broken. They have always been broken on KDE. You enable them, and after reboot, they don't show up.
You know what? As long as I can remember on Linux, anytime somebody comes out with OneDrive integration in whatever application it happens to be, it's never right. Or it might be right for a minute, but it quickly becomes broken.
Well, it's probably because they're doing some sort of like workaround that is kind of just cobbling it together of a few things.
Well, until Microsoft officially supports OneDrive on Linux, what are you going to do?
I mean, Dropbox could do it. I mean, why can't Microsoft?
You know what? Yeah, I never even thought about that, but you're right. There is a Dropbox client. Yeah. Why isn't there a OneDrive, like an official OneDrive client?
Ooh, what's going
Well,
on with your audio? Your audio keeps coming and going and muting and
Mine?
yeah.
The Microsoft not
Linux.
doing
What
it
do
is
you want?
probably because they have to, admit that it's a viable platform
Yeah.
for desktop.
Yeah.
Yeah, that.
Yeah.
Have you guys? It happens to me a lot.
It happens to me on Discord. Yeah.
I say a lot. It doesn't happen to me like all the time. But yeah, it was a networking issue because OBS just sent me a notification saying reconnected. So I think it was a networking problem.
Go over to Windows instead.
let me log
Yeah,
into my other
yeah, but-
operating system,
But can
Windows
we get,
7.
Can we get XGent on Windows now?
It's so weird. It does that to me on Discord. I'm talking and suddenly I say something loud.
Uh-huh.
I look at my volume. It's at 5%.
Yeah, on these kind of chat programs like Zoom and Discord, make sure you don't have the automatic adjust volume thing ticked on. Otherwise, it will adjust your volume because you told it to. So anytime you cough or sneeze and it's a real loud sound in the mic, so well, we need to turn your volume down, and then you'll be really quiet.
Yeah. Oh my lord. During the podcast, the NTA podcast with Big Pod and Josh, it was like muting me and then disconnecting me completely and then reconnecting me and then my audio comes back and oh my lord, it was a nightmare. Linux with audio and video, especially live or recording, it's a nightmare.
One other piece of software news I wanted to talk about. It's not out yet, but it's probably coming in the next couple months, maybe. But we've been waiting on it for literally years, many years. GIMP 3. It's getting real close now. And of course, this will be the first version of GIMP that introduces non-destructive editing, which is still going to be kind of a work in progress, but that's nice that it'll finally be a part of the program, and we'll see how it develops in the future. They're also fixing a lot of other annoying bugs, like some of the font handling issues with GIMP. You guys, I'm sure you guys play a lot with GIMP, and if you've got a ton of fonts installed on your system, GIMP, when you do the drop down, sometimes GIMP will freeze or sometimes even crash if you have, hundreds or thousands of fonts in the list. It doesn't like also when certain fonts are named the same thing. It doesn't really understand that. So they're fixing a lot of those annoying kind of bugs with the fonts.
But it's still GTK2 or 3, sorry.
I think they're porting it to GTK3.
Yeah, they're porting it to GTK3, but no news about GTK4 support.
Well, how can you move to GTK4 if you haven't completed the port to GTK3? I mean, would you just going to scrap the port to GTK3?
Yeah.
Don't worry, that'll come in a couple of years. It'll be there. Don't worry about it.
And
by the time
years,
GTK5 is like
released, it'll be 4.
Well, at that point, you're basically what you're saying, Big Pod, is that you should ditch GTK altogether and then create using some other toolkit, maybe an Electron app or something. Like, I mean, that's what you're saying. If you can't keep up with the development with GTK, then just ditch GTK altogether.
No, I'm not saying that. You're saying
well,
that.
how else would they do
Windows.
that?
I'm saying they should just skip GTK3 and go for GTK4.
Yeah, but by the time they would get GTK4 done, GTK5 would be out. Like, they would just constantly be working on stuff that they would never release.
Hey, they're trying to be the Manjaro photo editors.
Remember, GIMP only really has 2 full-time paid like full-time guys working on it. As big a project as GIMP is, which GIMP has hundreds of millions of users probably around the world. There's like 2 guys that really work on it. I'm sure there's other people that commit things, but it's such a small team working on that massive project.
I would agree with that one. But come on, GIMP, move your ass. That's what
Yeah.
how I
They
would put
are.
it.
They're doing as best as they can for their side.
But you're going to get the GTK3 thing soon, because they're already, and that works pretty much getting done. You're going to get your new icons and new pretty buttons and things. Well, for GTK3, pretty new buttons. Yeah, obviously, GTK4 is already out, so.
Yep. And I have
Vader
some
says
news.
GTK sucks anyway.
GTK
GTK
what?
4
GTK sucks. GTK4 sucks anyway, is what he's saying.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have some sort of news is for whatever reason Linux kernel 6.8, since we're talking updates, and the
I'm not on
Linux
6.8. I'm on 6.7.
The
6.7.5 is what I'm on.
somebody in my Discord just posted the update. I don't know if you knew about it, but there was a BTRFS bug with 6.7, and that just got fixed and reported and patched. So
Yeah.
6.6 or 6.7 is good to go now.
Yeah, 6.7.6 we are now, but
Yeah, I'm 1 point behind you.
1 point.
6.
I'm 6.7.5. Yeah, hadn't
6.
updated in 3 days. You get a new
But-
kernel like every second day in Arch.
But 6.8 is at RC5 right now,
Right.
and it doesn't include any. It doesn't support NVIDIA at all. If you have an NVIDIA card and you try to install the 6.8 series of kernels, and you have the modules inside MKinit CPIO for Wayland, it's not going to understand them. It's going to say unknown modules, could not load modules, and your Wayland is going to break. So
what was the ButterFS bug?
Let me look it up, and I'll have to.
I don't run
ButterFS.
ButterFS, so it doesn't affect me. I was just
I think it was.
curious.
I think it was like crashing the file system.
File system. Okay.
Yeah.
Were people losing data?
I don't know if they were losing. I think they were losing data.
Well, that's bad then.
Yeah.
They had another bug too with the graphic in 6.7.4 and .5 that when you used a dual screen, you could get a problem with the window management.
Yep.
Yeah. So I'm looking at the comment in my Discord. It said Valve introduced a patch as a kernel to 6.7 that was nuking ButterFS partitions.
Ooh, that's not good.
Yeah, but it's been fixed now, so you're good to go.
I mean, that's like the worst, almost one of the worst things you could do to
Really
a
is.
computer if you have a bug. Is
Because
data loss.
the only operating system I know that has a
Yeah.
habit of wiping the entire file system on a bad update was Windows. Seeing that in Linux kind of.
and the
Shocks
boot
me.
manager.
Oh
And
yes.
the
But isn't that fun? But isn't that fun when Windows, you using Windows, you have a lottery. Okay, let's see if my system survived today. You can bet money on it.
Well, you know what? You know.
You know what's funny? Linux did that too for the boot manager.
Yeah,
Just
I know,
nobody
I know.
complained about it.
Hey, but
Yep.
if we're being fair, before doing a major update, I know we say this and nobody does it. You should always make a backup.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yep.
but the average Joe, they don't think about backups. They just, it's an update. Or click install, and then the system nukes. And
Well, I think the operating system should do a better job when they're doing a major update, like from one major version of your distro to the next or whatever. It should actually, like in big, bold, gigantic text, have a pop-up, full screen on the window, back up all your important data right now before hitting this button.
I'm going to go on a limb,
Mhm.
and I think the average Mac user knows more about backing up and actually does it than probably Windows and Linux users.
Probably, yeah.
Because they're told about
The
it a lot
cloud,
too.
all the backup features. Yeah, I mean,
Yep.
I actually
Time
could see
machine.
that.
Yeah, I think it's more ingrained in becoming habit.
Yeah,
I
you
think
make a good point there. Yeah,
and a
I
Mac
would
is
agree with that.
automatic.
Yep.
When you install the newest version of Mac OS, it automatically starts making critical backups of your system. Then you can just add, if you want, your own files like documents or whatever. But critical system, it automatically backup already.
Oh, Yeah, especially if you have iCloud settings in.
Yeah,
there's already
exactly.
because they do a pretty good job with.
Yeah.
There's that term about not convergence. Is it where it's easy to sync everything and you have a seamless, relatively seamless experience?
Yeah,
going
and
from
that's
desktop
where
to
they
mobile.
activated a sync of a backup as well. So we took the whole system from iPhone and basically put it into macOS, and it works similar way. But instead of phone, we back up the entire computer, and it's done automatically now. Before, you get those big screens that do you want to activate your backup sync? Yes or no. But now it's doing it for the kernel and for the software, but not the documents and private stuff. That you still need to go and say, I accept, and then it goes. But the point here, it does. On Windows and Linux, you need to do it manually. Nobody will tell you, go make backup.
Yeah, and
Yep.
speaking of bugs, I just remembered there's currently a bug with Network Manager, at least on KDE, where if you update to the latest version, if you reboot your computer, it's not going to connect to any network. It's just going to spin and spin and spin continuously and won't stop.
Oh wow.
Yep.
What's your take on Plasma 6?
I just got a notification right now that Plasma 6 final is already available on the Arch repository staging repositories, and one of my favorite widgets got updated. The overview, the developer just sent me a private message on GitHub. He was like, because I told him update for Plasma 6 4 months ago, and now he just sent me a notification, a private message. He's saying done, and it's published to the store. So with that being said, it is scarily, eerily smooth.
Really?
Yeah, that's what I heard too. That it's really going smoothly, and it's remarkably stable for
Remarkably
being,
stable.
That's
and
what I was
fast.
wondering about.
And
It's fast too?
Yeah.
And I compared. I did a comparison between resource use between Plasma 5 and Plasma 6. Plasma 6 uses 45% less resources.
What?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what are you down to now? Like 500 megabytes that it's using?
478.
Oh, I was off by just a few. Wow. But
You
that's
couldn't
still
just
good.
say 500. You had to go.
But 478 on boot.
Do you remember back in the days when Plasma used to use almost 1.5 gigs?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Plasma 4. That was that was so bad. It wasn't just bad because it was a hog. It was bad because it crashed all the time too. It wasn't just yeah.
And now,
it was such a bad release. Plasma
and
4.
now Kwin does everything. K-Screen is no more. K-Screen, they dropped K-Screen and K-Screen 2.
Full compositor now?
Yeah. And there's only one small thing they haven't finished yet. And according to what they said, it's not going to be done until April, May, is when you go to download new plasmoids, or themes, should I say. Plasmoids, you can still do that, but if you go to the KDE settings and you click download more themes, it's going to be blank.
Yeah.
Sounds like a sci-fi film. Plasmoids.
Well, invasion of plasmoids.
It sounds like a cheap horror movie, like a PG-13 rated horror movie, because it can't be R-rated because they can't afford the special effects to make it,
But
no, I'm really excited for Plasma 6.
I am too, but I'm sad at the same time.
Why?
Because it will break my rice.
Well, put a new one.
I have to remove all my plasmoids, my widgets, and wait for the only one that has been updated was the overview one. The rest of them are yet to come.
Do you know what you can do? Start develop new one. Chop chop.
There you go.
Yeah.
Or you could just move to a window manager and you never really have to worry about.
Speaking of a
Or-
window manager, I will be for the first time ever, shutting my mouth or
Oh,
put and
that's a rarity. Yeah, we're both like, what?
I hardly
Or-
believe that.
Actually, now I'm start to thinking he's complaining so much, he may be switching to Windows again.
no, I'm never going switching to Windows. No, especially after today and installing Windows 10 on this customer's PC. But I'm gonna shut my mouth and I'm gonna install Nix on my laptop with Hyperland.
Ooh, baby, coming
Ooh.
over.
Zany
Hyperland,
OS.
officially.
Zany OS. Yeah, baby.
It's make sure you get the latest update because he did a whole lot to it.
I know.
more
I'm
than
watching
other
his videos.
configurations.
I'm watching
Yeah,
his
it's-
videos.
It's good. It's really, really good.
Yeah,
what I'm riding
I
as
want
my
to use
daily.
it. I want to use it for no less, and I'm not gonna give up this time. I'm gonna
You
use it for
will.
no less than 90 days.
Yeah,
90
good luck.
days.
Oh, there you go.
Exactly. Good luck.
I'm at probably 60 right now.
You're at 60,
Yeah, I think so. Somewhere in that area, close to it.
and you're sticking to the config as is. You're not modifying it too much.
Nothing I did. Yep. Nope. All I did was add. Well, he's done a lot, but I mean, I've just simply added my pack. The packages that I want onto it. Made it. I did I sourced the fix to get Solar working for the Logitech mice for Logitech, and he's now made it part of the whole thing. But yeah, no, I mean it's solid.
Don't you find it a little bit odd that he convinced me to? He was one of the people, not he, but he was one of the people who convinced me to drop the distro, and now he made something practically a distro.
No, he made what he said you should have made.
Well,
Was a set of dot files.
it's
which is what
borderline.
you're doing.
Yeah, but the way many people are seeing it is borderline a distro. Just it's only missing Calamares and an ISO. Then it'll become a distro.
He's made an install script too.
Yeah, so there you go.
It's got his
So
own.
he
And
can-
he's
he
also
was
got.
one of the
He's
people
also
who
got an
convinced
update. It also has an update script too.
He's doing amazing work. I must admit, I've never seen someone so enthusiastic to turn it into something so big.
So if you know Tyler, he's like he can be all over the place with a lot of stuff. This is the first time I've seen him.
Are
Literally
you
just
talking
like-
about Tyler on Gentoo or Tyler on OpenBSD or Tyler on Mac?
on Mac or Tyler on Windows? Yeah, and now, dude, it's like literally, it's like boom, just straight Nix. That's it.
Straight 100% Nix. He
Yeah.
even went to the lengths to provide support, one-on-one support. I find
Yeah.
that's amazing. That's just amazing. And he's the reason why I tried Nix, and I really liked Nix. The only reason I couldn't stay on Nix is because I'm an arch devotee.
And that's fine.
I
Use
do-
what works for you, bro. I say that all the
Yeah,
time
exactly.
to everybody.
I'm an arch devotee, and
That's where there's-
but there's when I was asked twice if Arch hadn't existed, which distro would you be on? I would have I answered that question with Nix being the number one.
What?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
See, I have to,
Debian,
because my
you're
number one
Debian.
priority is software availability. Like if I wasn't
Yeah.
on Arch, I mean, Debian is the only other alternate,
knew you
or
were
a
not.
Debian-based distro.
For me, Nix number one, number two, Fedora. Fedora Rawhide.
I mean, the underlying distro, as far as some of the technology, the neat things they do under the hood, that's nice, but it's all about software availability.
Yeah, but Nix, they got 80,000 packages in their repositories.
Yeah, they do.
And
but it's not
and
Debian.
It's not
It's not
Debian.
Yeah, I mean, let's
But
be
it
real,
gets
it's not
them- it
Debian.
gets them from-
Come
it
on.
gets them- It does get
It
them
has
from
more
all over the
packages than
place.
Debian. Far more packages than Debian.
Well, yeah.
Yeah, and the best part of Nix, it gets them from all over the place. It gets Pac-Man packages, it gets dev packages, it gets
Nix
RPMs,
packages, yeah. A lot of them are
it gets
repackaged. In fact,
everything, and then
there's
it
a whole-
compiles them into.
There's a whole section in their documentation that you can repackage stuff for Nix.
Yep, exactly.
Well,
And
you know what's the worst thing about NixOS? It's one of the most infuriating things in the world.
What?
NixOS.
Yeah, and I was about to say in the chat, somebody is apparently going to start quoting me. He says, NixOS, it's not Debian. That's my quote.
That's a
NixOS
That's a T-shirt worthy.
That is.
infuriates me
That's-
so much. Like, really, wow, the most infuriating things in the world. I tried it again a couple of weeks ago, and I just hate it.
What was your problem with it? I mean, I'm
There's
just
so many
curious.
problems. Like, that configuration file is idiotic. Sorry.
You're absolutely right. I'll tell you that. You're absolutely right. It's
That's
when
going to
you-
prevent a lot of people from running NixOS.
but
Now, not the
here's thing.
nerds, but I don't like I'd be fine with it.
Here's the thing,
but,
though. If you
but
do the
most
flake-
people, yeah.
set up a flake with Home Manager, it makes it so much more like what you're used to. That's the key.
It has 5 ways to do one thing, and
But
only
also
3 of them are
just
correct.
installing software and just
the most
Yeah.
infuriating part of NixOS is, unless you're using Home Manager, is that you don't have your usual
Your
user
user
your
you
user
don't have
land.
your user land, so you have
Yeah.
a hard time. You have a hard time finding stuff, where to go stuff. But
yeah, the
once you
things
set up
with
Home
with
Manager-
Nix and Geeks, some of the problems I ran into on both those distributions. It's been a while since I've tried them, a couple years, but compiling software, you'll find software that is not packaged and that you have to build from source. You're going to run into that.
Yeah, that's
And doing that on Nix or Geeks, the way they have their file system is so different.
Yes,
it's not gonna- it's not gonna-
making
it's
a
not-
package is one of the most infuriating things it is. Like,
right.
Well, yeah,
I
because it deals with the
absolutely
Nix
hate it.
store. It
Yeah,
deals with
no,
the Nix store on your computer.
let's keep it simple. For me, for example, I'm a KDE and only KDE fanboy. Going to settings and not seeing SDDM settings there to modify my theme infuriated me because
I
I
remember
had
you tell me about that.
I had to go and create a configuration file for SDDM because SDDM doesn't have SDDM.conf in user.
Yeah, it's not in user share SDDM because
Yeah.
the whole file system's different. Yeah, that's
That infuriated me. I was like,
Yeah.
what the hell? Something simple I have to dig
It's on
through
your
the
Etsy
Google
folder
web.
with that long ass name that they have.
Yeah,
Nix
you cannot
store.
modify that.
Yeah.
You cannot modify that
Yeah, you
unless you
can't
have Home
modify it.
Manager.
Yeah.
that's really
Unless
only
you
my
have Home Manager.
My only
Right.
complaint with Nix and with Geeks, because they do the same thing, is really the fact that they have a different file system structure hierarchy
Yeah.
that causes problems with software. And
Yeah.
really,
Yeah.
if it wasn't for installing software, both software availability and then when you're installing certain pieces of software, getting it to work correctly, especially third-party stuff, maybe that you're compiling yourself, like if all that just worked. That'd be a major step forward. For example, you guys know I love dmenu. Like the suckless software, it's not going to compile correctly because it's going to try to put those binaries in user bin. Well, you can't do that on Nix or Geeks, right?
That's why they have their own version of it, maybe.
Yeah, right. I mean, they've done that because so many people use those programs. But you're going to find other programs, more niche programs, that you'll want to compile yourself. That just always going to be an issue.
I know
Unless you put Home
people
Manager
use
in.
software that just doesn't work on Nix. Just doesn't
Yeah.
work.
Yeah, just get the Flatpaks at this point.
Well, that's another thing with Nix Flatpaks work. I don't know if snaps don't work on Nix. I don't know if
No,
app images
Flatpak
do.
does.
Geeks, I don't.
Flatpaks do work.
With
They do
Geeks,
work.
I don't think snaps or app images work. I'm not sure if Flatpaks. Maybe
in
none
fact-
of the 3 work on Geeks.
In fact, if you
So
wanna
there's
enable-
issues with that as well.
If you want to enable Flatpaks on Nix, you
Yeah,
go to
Mr. Hall.
Flatpak and they give you exactly what you got to do. It's ridiculously easy.
Yeah, just enable Flatpak enable equals true. Done.
That's it.
That's it.
Flatpak
And also,
enable
you're going to
equals
run
true,
into
and then
problems
you add the
while we're talking
PPA,
about package
and then you add the
managers that don't
rebuild.
work. The program language specific package managers, they're not going to know where the hell to put these programs on Nix or Geeks.
Yeah. That is 100% true. There will be a lot of cases where Nix is not ideal unless you are willing to compile your own version with their own Nix specific config.
And I'm not trying to trash Nix or Geeks. Like I said, I loved playing with them. I did videos about them. I just think you have to know what you're getting into when you jump to them.
But
just putting a warning out there for people. And I'm just
like when
full disclosure. That's all it is.
When you're coming, if you want a distro or not a distro, something that you install and you can forget about, and you just use a couple of tools here and there, and they're not niche tools, they're known things that you can either get as Flatpaks or regular packages, and you just browse the internet and do some development work here and there using VS Codium, let's say, and whatever. Nix is a perfect system, and you don't mess around with it too much. Nix is perfect. Even I used it and I enjoyed it, but I needed to work on my toolkit, so I couldn't stay on it. But another thing I liked about Nix is you put your Git credentials in the configuration file, and you can Git push, Git pull without having to do anything like on Arch and everything else. Just simple as that. Zany made a believer out of me with Nix.
Well, I mean, you don't really have to do much on standard distributions for Git. I mean, what you're talking about your credentials? I mean,
you set them once and you forget them. Yeah, I know.
Yeah, you can do that on normal Linux,
But you can save your configs, so you don't.
Well, the .git folder.
Yeah. But even if you didn't, you really only have to enter two things: your username and your password one time. So it's not.
Yeah.
It's all of 10 seconds.
Well, this is one of the things. There's many other things that makes it easier. And the best part of it is once you have your configuration file set in stone, push it to Git. And whenever you want to reinstall, you just pull it back. Done deal. Run it, rebuild, done.
Yep.
This is the reproducibility of Nix.
That's the part that I find is annoying as hell, is that you have to constantly rebuild.
Yeah, well, that's the nature of it, though. I mean,
rebuild, and
that's
reboot.
The most
sometimes.
Annoying part is a constant, rebuild.
Every time you guys know how I feel about. You guys know how I feel about source-based distribution. It's just the time it takes, certain distributions to compile software. I don't like things that take unnecessarily long time.
Right.
And, the fact that.
Thankfully, though, the rebuild doesn't take that long, but it's annoying
But
because every time you make a change, you're like, cool, I got it. Because you're used to when you install a package, right? You just go into your, you either, hit your key bindings to launch it, or if you already knew what they were already set, or you go into your applications launcher and you launch it, right? In Nix, you go to do that, and it's like, damn it, why isn't this working? Oh, because stupid me, I got to hit freaking rebuild every time.
Rebuild and sometimes reboot for the applications to show up in the app menu. Rebuild, reboot, and
that is the one big knock.
Oh my god!
Well, that doesn't bother me. My operating system requires a reboot as well.
Yeah, but constantly rebuilding and seeing all the source code, especially when you're installing packages that have 1,000 dependencies.
But then again, I also don't install software all that much because, well, all I have to do is enter into already have everything I want on it, since my image built in somewhere in Microsoft Cloud. I don't care.
You just got everything Dockerized, right? You just got everything.
I use Fedora Silverblue. I have my own image for Fedora Silverblue, and somewhere GitHub built it for me in Microsoft's cloud. I don't care. They build it for me. That's it.
That's it.
Yeah.
I
well,
heart Microsoft.
I heart Microsoft. Oh
I
my
heart
God.
their free resources.
I heard their free resources.
Eh, I think we said enough about NixOS.
Yeah.
To sum it up, it's not Debian. That's all we need
It's
to
not
know.
Debian. It's not Debian. Yeah, that is true. But if you want to continue on the new stuff, Mesa got reached 24 without. I didn't even notice this morning. I update. It's like 24.1. I was like, when was 24 released?
It's been about 3 days since I did an update. I'm sure probably right after this stream I'll run an update since it's been a couple days.
And
Get
then
my
next-
newest kernel
then next
since I
week-
should
then
be
next
on
week you'll see a
6.7.6.
You see a video from DT saying, "I switched to Debian because I updated Arco again."
Well, you know what? Part of the reason why I went with Arco was because I was already on it and I had everything saved. But part of the reason why I didn't jump to Debian, or I also thought about Ubuntu LTS would be a great option if we were just 2 months further into the future when the new LTS drops. Because if I go to Ubuntu LTS now, that's 2 years old, right? It's like that's a little too old. It's like if it was the new one already, maybe, you know. Same thing with Debian. It's been too long since the last release of Debian. Once we get closer to the next one, maybe.
Yeah, that's funny. That is funny. Just 2 months held you back. 2
Yeah,
months.
you know what? Well, I mean, I could install, but then 2 months do that major upgrade from the last LTS to the next LTS. And you know how flaky those things can be.
Right, and then the next video after
And
that
then
would've
it
been like,
breaks, and then I end up
I'm
reinstalling
jumping back to
anyway.
Arco.
Right.
Yeah, Arco just released
Who heads
something.
back on sounds?
I think the Swedish Linux.
He's
Yes,
using
TV. You can
headphones.
see the
Oh, yeah.
reflection of the window.
Yeah. There we go.
Yep.
Well, okay.
Your TV's loud.
Yeah,
Yeah.
You might want to mute yourself while you're not speaking because there's something going on in the background that's bleeding through.
Yeah. By
But
the
yeah,
way,
you said Arco just had a big update.
yeah, Arco had not a big update. They have something new. He gave it a new name. I forgot the name of it.
Yeah, I got a message about it too in my email. I didn't read it though. But because I get so many messages about Arco because he's always doing something.
He's always
Some
up.
video he's made.
He's always got something going on.
It's called so many phone videos. It's called what the hell? Where is you? So many videos. Come on, man. It's coming. It's a plasma version of a riser. I forgot the name of it. Sierra. He's calling it Sierra. Project Sierra. It's a plasma version of a riser. So he's working on a new project, and he updated his Glade application to support Sierra, to build Sierra ISOs. Well, nothing. He's not doing anything major. He hasn't done anything noteworthy in a long time because there's no
other
need
than
in-
maintaining like 28 ISOs.
What 28 ISOs? They're up to
Whatever.
40 something.
Is it up to 40 now?
Yeah,
Insane.
42 ISOs.
That is totally insane.
Yeah, well,
Yeah, I
he
gotta
keeps
respect
adding-
it though. You know, I gotta respect somebody that's that crazy.
Yeah, and he keeps adding window manager after window manager after window manager after and they're all X11. I'm like, you know that X11 is going the way the fish is. So what are you gonna do with all these 40 ISOs?
Well, that don't mean
that's running?
people will still be using them.
Well, yeah, but
It'll still be a
So,
ride. It's not-
I
you
mean,
know,
there's no
that
reason
was-
not to build the ISO for the people that want to use
I was
it.
gonna say that question was asked in chat. You know, is X11 going? You know, like, is it still safe to use because it's not being maintained? It's been in maintenance mode. You know, feature complete for how long now?
Like a decade.
Since 1986.
Yeah, like
Essentially.
decades.
I mean,
So, I
if
mean-
we're being honest, I mean, it's
Yeah, that's what I'm
not a whole
saying.
lot has changed with it.
Yeah, I mean that's what I'm saying. I mean, yeah, it's still okay. It's not going anywhere. It's going to be viable.
Yeah, I mean, it's
Okay,
been around for
this is
40 years at this point. I think it'll be around for a little while longer.
which brings me to my question is, since my 10 series card, and I don't think I'll be able to buy a new card for another 5 to 6 years, given the situation here. So do you think if I, for example, stick to X11 after Wayland has become a thing and X11 has gone the way the fishes and everything, I will be able to survive on X11 for another 4 or 5 years?
Yeah,
easily.
X11 is going to be around for many. The BSD operating systems, all the Unix operating systems, they're not having. Wayland's not even a thought on those operating systems.
No.
But yeah, you'll still be able to use.
Yeah,
your
okay,
cards.
good. That puts me at ease, because due to my card, even if I wanted to, I can't use Wayland.
Because I mean, obviously NVIDIA. I mean, they care about. Well, I say they care about their Linux customers, but they also care about a lot of people in the general Unix space, and like Solaris and all the BSD operating system. They're not breaking Xorg on those operating systems.
Yeah,
It just won't be. It just won't be maintained.
Yeah. But as long as the applications I use work, I'm gonna continue using X11. I have no choice in the matter.
And
It's not like I have a
if you
choice.
wish to use X11 in the future, to everybody, you can go help out maintain it and maintain it in future.
It's all free and open source software.
Yeah.
I mean, it's one of those things. Free and open source software never really dies as long as somebody wants it to continue.
Well, I was going to say,
create a
even if
foundation.
the main dev stepped away, somebody's going to pick it up to fix it out of necessity for themselves.
I mean, I mentioned this on camera on a video a while back about these people with the unmaintained software. VI saw its last release in 2004 or 2006. The VI editor, that is the standard editor on all Unix-like operating systems, hasn't had an update in 20 years. Is it dead? Now, should we quit using it? And it's like, well, it's still the default.
Still there.
It's still the standard editor, right? So,
really, Kuya? Really, Kuya?
What? Really? What?
You're gonna be talking about Hiren's boot disk?
Yeah.
Welcome to Windows, people.
No. Actually, you'd be surprised how many Linux tools are in there.
Okay, I'm eager to watch the episode.
It's much different than it used to be.
Yeah.
Well, I just booted it. I just booted it today to back up the customer's thing. But
I'm not talking about the PE edition, because the PE edition comes with Windows 11 portable. Right. I'm talking about 15.2.
There's a new one?
No, I don't know how new it is. It's the one I used to use. It was a go-to for me all the time when I worked at the computer shop.
Wait,
you could do so much with that thing. I'm telling you. If you go look at it. Check the link in the description, and you'll see all the tools that it has in it. It'll blow your mind.
Okay, okay. I will watch the episode.
You just have to have an open mind, right?
Yeah. Well, Hiren boot disk was my the tech. I have it on Ventoy. It's my ideal tool to rescue people's computers. But I have the PE. I have the PE edition. Not the. It comes with Windows Portable. And it's kind of like Arch. It's like chrooting, but it's got so many tools in there. It has always saved my life. Always.
Yeah, it's a great little tool to have for.
And the guy who
do
made
any
it,
kind of computing.
And the guy
Am
who
I
made
wrong,
it
George?
It's pretty good. I haven't used it in a long time. Or actually, you know what? No, you know what? I've seen people use it. I haven't actually used it personally.
Yeah.
But it's impressive.
It is impressive. And the guy who made it back in the day was a single person sitting behind his desk. And this is another part of Windows that we take for granted, for example, is the fact that they offer a PE environment, a portable environment, where you can do whatever you want. They give you more freedom in the PE PE environment than they give you with actual Windows. Yeah,
but he didn't include some of the other tools in the PE environment. So, but that had one. So if you ever have a drive get corrupted in Windows, getting those files back can be a nightmare. There's one tool called Get Back NTFS.
Get data back. Get data back.
Get back data. Yeah, get data back that's in there that
Yeah.
I still swear by.
I swear by it too. It rescued.
I think it'll actually read ext2 and 3 as well.
ext3.
Nice. Yeah.
Yeah, it rescued one of my drives. I remember Get data back NTFS.
Yeah, I haven't tried it on ext4 yet, but it actually works really, really well. It's a forensic data recovery tool. It will get back. I think it'll go back to like the fifth or sixth digit if you tell it to.
Yeah. Oh my God! You just sent me 20 years back, man.
Yeah.
Oh my God! Love that.
DT.
Love that.
Yep.
I think we have 2 undercover Windows lovers here.
Well, we've got 3 because Big Pot is definitely on Team Windows.
No,
Yeah.
no, I am not. Let's get that clear. I'm not.
Alex
I'm a fan of tools. I'm a fan of tools, baby boy.
And Steve really is more of a Mac fanboy than a Windows fanboy.
Oh,
I don't care about this battle than anything else.
No, don't get me started on Mac
And
OS.
to be honest, Emacs works on Windows, so I'd be fine on Windows.
No. But to be frank,
you get org mode on it.
Yeah.
To be frank,
awesome.
people would think restoring a Mac laptop would be easier than Windows because it's just boot off the drive, install, you're done. No. I received a 2011 MacBook Pro yesterday from a worker here. It took me 6 hours to restore because for whatever reason, for High Sierra, Apple has an issue where every time you boot the USB, try to install it, it will say corrupt because it can't connect to the servers because they forgot to renew the certificate where the image is, the recovery image is. So you have to access the HTTP non-secure. You have to modify the URL to use HTTP instead of HTTPS for it to even work. And for me to find the solution, it took me 3 hours.
Wow.
It was a nightmare. It was a nightmare, especially when it comes to old laptops. Apple doesn't give a rat's hootie.
They don't.
Yeah, so it was easier to restore the PC Windows laptop than it was restoring the MacBook. I'm not a MacBook fanboy. Mac OS
well,
fanboy.
guys, we're coming up on the end of our 2-hour block here. Although typically these things don't sync to Odyssey anymore, even though it's supposed to, as long as I keep it under 2 hours. I've kept the last couple, I think, under 2 hours. They didn't sync for whatever reason. So I don't know what's going on with Odyssey, but just in the hopes that this does make it to Odyssey, let's get a last word from everybody. So we just had Aliens join in. He doesn't have a mic, but I appreciate you your support. Thanks for joining in. Swedish Linux, give us a last word.
Well, what can I say? I wish that Linux could standardize more of its core function, so it'd be more of a competition for people with older hardware, because Windows is going to screw you over sooner or later. So at least Linux could be more valuable option for every day. And people who say that it doesn't, it's lying, because my 82-year-old dad just 2 years ago got over to Linux and he loved it. My mom, 78, got over to Linux and love it. Ubuntu Mate. So Linux is a valuable option, but as long as we have non-standardized parts, then Linux is hard for some people. And I wish that could be fixed for some way. And
You will never
then
have
Linux
standardized
would go.
parts.
Well, unfortunately, that's not the
It's
way
a
free
waste
and open
to
source software works. So yeah, it's never
Yeah.
going to be the case, unfortunately.
But it's a wish dream. I mean, they
The minute
could,
you have standards, the minute that free and open source software no longer exists, it just becomes proprietary software at that point.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But some kind of a standardization or co-working, then we could push Linux a little bit more higher, because
Yeah,
Linux is popular.
I think that's a good goal. I think we should have better cooperation among the various communities within free and open source software.
Yeah.
I think
Because-
that's a goal that could be achieved.
Yeah.
Unfortunately,
Because
too many people. We have a lot of people that don't play well with others.
Yeah,
work on
but
software.
but
You know,
we
it's
have
just the nature
one
of software
place-
developers. A lot of times, these are
But we have-
strange and weird individuals.
Yeah, but we have a place called India where Linux really blooming because of one reason: cooperation. And Linux, I think it's 17 or 18% of India's computer system using Linux in a different waveform. But they're doing exactly this. They cooperate instead of fighting each other. And if we can do the rest of the world,
Yeah.
I think Linux can pop up to 7-8% without a big problem.
I think a lot of that too is the nature of free and open source software, kind of like you can't have standards. I also think just the nature of free and open source software leads to a lot of very opinionated people being part of the community. Everybody has their own ideas where things should go. And that's just, again, it's just the nature of it. It'll never change. It's just one of those things we kind of have to accept that that's the way it is.
Yep.
And I do want to mention one more last word, because he had a power outage during the stream and left us kind of early on. Jean-Michel, he just sent a message for his last word. Sorry for dropping out. Had a short power outage. I logged in again, and then a second power outage happened. He's on a candle, I guess candlelight, writing this message on his smartphone. So see you next time. Greetings from Switzerland. Thank you, Jean-Michel, for your last word. Thank you, Swedish Linux, for yours as well. Big Pod, give us the last word.
Ublu finally has its ISOs. So if you're
Okay.
interested in great immutable experience, I recommend Universal Blue.
Do
Those
you got a
ISOs are
specific
amazing.
link to you got a link you can drop to the YouTube chat for people that want to check out an ISO?
Just go to either universalblue.org or ublue.it. It's also work,
Okay.
or batside.gg or project bluefin.
Damn.
Okay, so people are supposed to remember all these. Okay.
I posted universalblue.org in the chat, so I
works.
didn't post them all. But yeah, it should get you. Okay.
Yeah, that should get you most stuff.
All right. Thank you, Big Bud. Alex, give us the last word, sir.
Well, the only thing I got to say is it's great being with you boys and talking Linuxy stuff. I am not a Windows fanboy. I'm just a fanboy of tools, and that's all I will say.
Love you, Kuya. Love you,
All right.
A
Kuya.
lot of
Wise words.
excuses, I hear.
George,
Love
give us
you,
the last
Kuya.
word, sir.
Thanks for hosting again, and yeah, it's been fun talking with people who have similar interests.
Well, thanks for being here, George. Steve, last word, sir.
Okay, it's gonna be short this time. Completely, very short. Nix is the tinker and the nerds. What did I want to call it? Is a nerd's best friend, or
Still not
fetish.
Debian.
Or
Still
fetish.
not Debian.
It's not Windows.
No, that's true. It could be worse. You're right. It's not Haiku. It's not ReactOS. It's not.
It's a Linux nerd's fetish. That's what I wanted to say. It's a Linux nerd's fetish.
Yeah. I appreciate that, Steve. My last word, of course, thanking you guys for being here on camera, and we had a couple of people that were here earlier that had to drop off. Obviously, Jean-Michel lost power. Shinobi was here in the early part of the stream. He had to drop off, but he gave us some best wishes as well on his way out. And other than that, I do want to thank the YouTube chat. I know we didn't get a lot to you guys as far as questions and comments, but you guys are always great. And of course, I want to thank all the patrons that couldn't be here on camera with us. I'm showing some names on the screen as we prepare to get out of here. And other than that, what should we say on our way out?
Nix.
Chicken grease?
I think we should all give Nix a letter grade A through F.